to meet you, and the wind be on your back. May the sun shine warm upon you, and the rain fall gently down.
Hello, welcome back. Today we're at week 48 of the series that will cover days 321 to 327. Or if you have the edition of The Road Rising that follows the calendar, then you'd be looking at November 16th to November 22nd. Last week we saw Friend and Fisher meet up with Sandy and the young people she was traveling with. Friend quite naturally slips into the role of mentor for the group, and many hours are passed discussing everything from Bible study to vegetarianism. Eventually, the conversation comes around to relationships between a man and a woman. Everyone in the group was familiar with the Bible's teachings and agreed with the basic concepts of the traditional family and the roles of husband and wife. But of course, everyone could recall exceptions, and a lively discussion followed about what we should do when our relationships don't follow the norm. Maybe I should just read part of that conversation from November 18, journal entry, day 323. The question of men's authority in the world kept the conversation lively for the rest of the day. As we moved on down the trail, Aaron offered this opinion. I have to keep coming back to the Bible, friend, where it says that men are to be in charge, make the decisions, lead the church, and support the family, protect the peace, and fight the war, as I agreed. But what does a woman do whose husband has deserted her? She gets a job, pays the bills, and if necessary, beats up anybody who threatens her children. I'm not saying this is the way it should be, but the sad fact is we men have dropped the ball when it comes to some of our responsibilities. And when that happens, I can only thank God that our women are willing and able to pick it up and run with it. Okay, said Reese, but you're talking about a case where a woman has to step in because some jerk of a man stepped out. But I know women who want to do those things, and they'll walk over any man to be able to do them. And now you're over my head, I laughed. I sure wouldn't want to be the one who tells a lady Marine sergeant to go back to the kitchen. I think some things will just have to be worked out between God and the people involved. One thing I keep coming back to, though, is this. When God made Adam and Eve, he said, in essence, the big hairy one, he's in charge. The soft pretty one, she's going to help him. That system, when it works, gives us a pretty good way of living. Sadly, we've taken the system and everything in it and twisted it around to try to fit our own selfish greed. Maybe if we could get together with our women and determine to follow God's lead, we could get back to where we should be. In the meantime, we just have to keep on loving, forgiving, and working for the best. One more thought, added Aaron. You mentioned at the beginning that it comes back to chain of command. If a man is living in submission to God, then it should be easier for his wife to live in submission to him. She may not agree with everything her husband does, but if she's convinced that he's walking according to God's plan, then she's better prepared to submit to her husband, and through him, to God. Now, I'm the first to admit that there are no easy answers to the situations described here. And I'm sure you can contribute a few examples from your own experience. I've been around the pastor block enough times to have had my heart broken when I see shattered relationships, dysfunctional families, and kids who just seem to have been raised on a powder keg, waiting for something to set it off. And if that's not enough, my son is a policeman, and a big part of his job is dealing with domestic violence. Hearing just some of his stories, even after he's cleaned them up for me, it's enough to drive me to despair. And make no mistake, God doesn't like it any more than I do. He's given us opportunity, plenty of instruction, and divine guidance to ensure that our homes are places of peace and joy and affirmation. But you know, sin is at work all around us, and the victims can be seen everywhere you turn. I wish, like everything, I could give you a bit of old guy wisdom that I could ensure success in every relationship that you have. But you know I can't do that. What I can do is point to the way where the answers can be found. And that is in a daily walk with God's Holy Spirit living in you. His Word tells us that the Spirit will comfort and convict and even intervene when necessary in order to ensure the kind of relationships we were created for. Don't despair if things look hopeless. Jesus is a carpenter. He loves building things with imperfect wood. He can take any situation and, according to his promise in Romans 8:28, make it into something beautiful. As a pastor, I've seen it happen over and over again. The key is that daily walk with him. Even if on the other side of the relationship, the person on the other side is not yet on board, God can still take even one life and work miracles. The journey you're on is one part of that daily walk. You may have thought you were on a hike with that pilgrim known as friend, but be assured it's more than that, much more. By the very fact that you are listening to this now tells me that God's Holy Spirit has his hand on you. And speaking of hands, let me close with the words of Isaiah chapter 49, verse 16. These are the words of God to the children of Israel, and by association to you and to me. It reads like this. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. I hope those words were a great comfort to Israel, but how much more to us as we think of those nail-pierced hands of Jesus. Can't you just see him holding out his hands to you and saying, see, I still have not forgotten, and I never will. Bless your relationships this week. May your journey be safe and pleasant. Y'all come back now here. I've really enjoyed writing this story, developing the characters in my mind, and then seeing how they might react to life. I've said it before, but it needs repeating. This is not an autobiography, but it is a personal observation of life on the trail, with each incident taken from real life experiences.